Zen is meditation, but it's not just the meditation that we do sitting with our legs crossed and our eyes lowered. Meditation is our life. Just as when we're on retreat, we say to people during breaks, it's not as if the retreat is over. We're doing break practice. So everything is practice, everything is meditation. So our whole life is a form of meditation. So I want to read something from, let's see if you could all see that. This book, The Whole World is a Single Flower. I'm going to talk a little bit about that phrase, the whole world is a single flower. But before I do, I want to start off reading something else. And for those of you who have and know this book, I'm reading from 195 in this book, The Whole World's a Single Flower. The title of this section is Attaining Don't Know is Your True Nature. And if I were writing this, I would get rid of the word attaining and just say, don't know is your true nature. One day, Zen Master Bon, seated on the high rostrum, hit his Zen stick on the table 3 times. And composed this poem aloud. If you want to understand, you don't understand. If you attain don't know, that is your true nature. Then he said, the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree for 6 years, only don't know. Bodhidharma sat in Sorim for 9 years, also don't know. If you want to understand something, you will go to hell like an arrow. If you attain don't know, you will get Buddha's head and Bodhidharma's body. Even if you have a lot of money, a high position, many academic degrees, and great power, none of them can help your true self. If you take a rotten rope and tie it to a cloud, that will help your life a little bit. If you can put the whole world into a mustard seed, then you can understand your true nature. But at that time, what do you see? What do you hear? If you see or hear something, you will go to hell. And if you cannot see or cannot hear something, you will lose your body. What can you do? Holding up his Zen stick, he hit the table and said, North Mountain, white hair, South Stream, water flowing, dole, dole, dole. Attain your true nature. Attain don't know, you attain your true nature. We don't know what he's talking about. This doesn't make any logical sense. If you take a rotten rope and tie it to a cloud, that will help your life a little bit. Can you do that? What is that rotten rope? What is this? In Zen practice, we're raising doubt. But we're not raising intellect, we're raising the experience of doubt. There's a Zen phrase that says, not knowing is most intimate. Not knowing is most intimate. Not knowing is an experience. Some of us, when we do our meditation, we use the phrase, what am I, as an object of meditation. We say on the inhalation, what am I? We say on the exhalation, all this to ourselves, don't know. If you're using the words, what am I, and don't know, then those words are like a mantra. If you are using the words to experience not knowing, then your practice becomes alive. Don't know is word, But if you stay in the world of name and form, you're just playing with the idea of not knowing. If you allow the question to really raise that great doubt, then you're in the realm of practice. Then your experience opens up. Sometimes it's lovely, sometimes it's horrible. Sometimes it's what we want, sometimes it's what we don't want. What is it? What is the experience? Not the name, the thing itself. So when we experience great doubt as the experience of doubt, then our practice is alive and it's vibrant. And that's what we're doing here. We're not trying to learn and understand as a way of getting more knowledge, or as he said in this reading, getting a good degree or having a lot of money. That's useful, and we may pursue that, but that's not practice. Practice is that moment where our certainty cracks and our not knowing appears. We sometimes go on to say that not knowing is before thinking. Many of you have heard me speak about this. I often talk about not knowing as curiosity and wonder. Experientially, when we're in that place of curiosity, when we're in that place of wonder, our life is vibrant. When we're in the place of certainty, our life is dull. We fall asleep into our certainty. And our certainty is actually just a game we play with ourselves because we really don't know. In your first interview in the Quantum School of Zen, you're handed this poem to read, The Human Root. Coming empty-handed, going empty-handed, that is human. When you're born, where do you come from? When you die, where do you go? Life is like a floating cloud which appears. Death is like a floating cloud which disappears. The floating cloud itself originally does not exist. Life and death, coming and going, are also like that. But there is one thing which always remains clear. It is pure and clear, not depending on life and death. Then what is the one pure and clear thing? We don't know. Where do we come from? Where do we go? We're born into this world and we disappear out of this world. What are we doing? How do we proceed? Mystery is the truth of our lives. We deny the mystery in order to give ourselves some protection and comfort. There are uses for meditation which bring comfort and warmth. There's uses for mindfulness that bring us more awareness of ourselves and others and actually helps us work through the situations of our lives and move forward. That's all wonderful. But that's not exactly what Zen practice is. Zen practice is being pushed into the unknown, the place that we're afraid of. In Zen Master Sung-san's first book, Dropping Ashes on the Buddha, the very first chapter talks about something, it goes something like this. It's like an animal cookie factory. There's this vast vat of dough. And out of this dough come lions and tigers and elephants and monkeys and rats and giraffes. Everything is always changing. The dough becomes something. It's made into this cookie. The cookie gets eaten. it gets digested. What gets eliminated becomes compost for the next batch of cookie dough. There's this flow of matter and energy that is the flow of our life experience. We experience it, but we don't understand it. And we all create theories and ideas in order to help us understand, but none of it actually touches what it actually is. Experientially, we get it. Intellectually, we understand it. So in our practice, we talk about digesting your understanding. Wisdom is something that we accrue over the course of our lifetime. We understand things and we digest it. And as we digest it, it becomes ours. And then we can use that to help this world and to help all beings. Another way I like to raise this mystery is going back to my high school chemistry class and learning about the periodic table of elements. And what we learn when we study the periodic table of elements is that all matter in our world is made up of the same substance. Just like that animal cookie factory, that vat of dough. When I was in high school, it was protons, neutrons, and electrons. I imagine now students are learning more about subparticles and things that are underneath the protons, neutrons, and electrons. But it's the same point. Everything is made up of these building blocks. And the only thing that makes hydrogen different than oxygen is the amount of those building blocks. So carbon looks like one thing, iron looks like something else. We say iron is iron and carbon is carbon, and we think of them as distinct and separate. That's how our mind understands matter. But underneath, what we're told at least is that it's all the same. It's just a matter of how those particles are put together. That's true for iron, it's true for carbon, and it's true for you, and it's true for me. We're made up of cells. Those cells are made up of other particles. We have bacteria in our body. I'm told that we have more stomach and gut bacteria than we have human cells. So what are we? Are we bacteria just carried by humans? Or are we humans who use bacteria to help us digest? From our human perspective, we're humans. If I could be bold enough to talk about the perspective of bacteria, it's all about the bacteria. So today, we're in the midst of this pandemic. Today, we're in the midst of being impacted by this virus that we're told is RNA material wrapped up in a fat sack. And that RNA material, that little piece of matter, comes into our body and starts to change the processes in our body. So we become the host for the virus. From the perspective of the human, we've got an alien invader inside of us taking over. From the perspective of the virus, we found another host, another way to replicate and to survive. All life moves towards survival. We think we understand what we're doing, but look a little deeper. Notice that you really don't understand what you believe. You believe it, but do you really know it? So that's our meditation practice. What is this? Not so much the question in words, but experientially, what is this? So let's take this one more step further. Let's go back to this phrase, the whole world is a single flower. Again, as I've been told, think of a daisy. We hold up this daisy. There's one flower. There's many, many, many petals. There's all of these things in the middle. There's a stem. And before you cut it, there are roots that go into the ground. But actually, a daisy is an amalgamation of many, 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 many flowers. Each petal actually has all the parts of an individual flower in it. So what we think of as one flower is actually a multitude of flowers. In Zen, we have this phrase, the one is the many is the one. Just again, depends on your perspective. So the whole world is a single flower. All the different component parts of our world is one flower. We live on the planet Earth, one planet. But there are many, many, 190, 200 and something countries that make up the Earth. Each country has states, what we would call states and cities and towns and villages and streets and blocks. Everything breaks down into smaller pieces. And each piece is a mirror image of the entirety. You and I are one. We manifest differently, but we all arise out of the same root. Another image that's sometimes helpful is a bush. You go outside and look at a bush, and there's one bush, but there are many, 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 many different leaves on that bush. And each one of those leaves has its own experience. If it's on one side of the bush, the sun might burn it, it might turn brown and fall off. If it's on another side of the bush, maybe it's getting a little less light, a little better for the leaf itself, so it's quite vibrantly green. Each leaf on a bush has its own existence, but it's all part of the same bush. Cut it down at its root, everything dies. We don't know. We don't understand. This life is a mystery to us. But we take that, and if we take that and only try to understand the mystery, we miss the point of practice. Because practice isn't about understanding it. It's about experiencing it, and responding in this very moment. Just now. Just now, I'm practicing Dharma talk meditation. Just now, each one of you is practicing listening meditation. Talking meditation, listening meditation, different face, same root. What is this? Letting go of our self-centered ideas and beliefs and constructs to keep us safe. Strip it away. Be alive in this moment. So we're in the time of this pandemic, and none of us really know how it's going to play out. Sometimes people ask me, how long do you think we're going to be sheltering in place? We had a question come up, how long into the future do we keep scheduling Dharma talks for online? We had some people from out of town asking to give talks in June. Are we going to still be here in June? Well, I think we're finding out, at least in the Bay Area and California, likely so. So we've opened up those slots till the end of June. But is it July? Is it August? Is it November? Do we go out in July? Do we come back in September? Nobody knows. We all have ideas, but nobody knows. You know, sometimes I think about the horror of slavery in the United States. And slavery lasted in the United States for about 400 years, give or take a few years. In those 400 years, some people were born into slavery and died out of slavery. That was the whole world. That's all they knew. Generation after generation, it was just the experience. And then suddenly, probably not so suddenly, as things started to move, society started to change. And after a very, very bloody civil war, suddenly people were free. Nobody knew when that was going to happen. And suddenly life was all different. I think too about all the people who spent many years in concentration camps during World War II. Looking backwards, we know, well, it was just a few years. Yeah, a lot of people died and people came out of it. But in the midst of that experience, nobody knew. Nobody knew if they'd get out or not. And that's true for our lives too. We don't know how this pandemic will play out. We don't know really anything about how our lives will play out. But our teaching tells us that if we pay attention, that our action and life direction today orients our lives towards the future. So we don't know what will happen, but we do know that the seeds that we plant today will be expressed tomorrow. So many times when I'm working with people, and I know this is true in myself, we forget cause, action, and effect. We think we'll get away with something. Maybe nobody will notice. But everything has its cause and then its result based on what we do. So when we're practicing with this not knowing, and we're practicing with an intention of curiosity and wonder, we're alive, we're aware, we're present. And then our action, we're accountable for. We're accountable for our being. Zen practice is not an escape. Zen practice is a movement towards taking responsibility for our own existence. And since I and you are one, we're taking responsibility for the existence of the entirety. Everything. To carry that burden, we develop our center. You can't see it. I'm always doing this. You see my robes are shaking. That means my hand is down at my lower abdomen. We return to the stability of our center. Our life becomes alive. Our energy brightens as we tune back into the source of our life. Zen means meditation. Everything is meditation. Each moment is an expression of just this. So what are we doing? How do we do it? Pay attention. All of us are a little bit of a droplet of the whole. Like the ocean is the entirety, and each little drop of water reflects everything that makes up the ocean. All of the ocean is contained in that one little drop. All of existence is contained in each of our own drop of life. What will you do with it? How do we function? Do we function with greed, anger, and desire? Or do we function with love, care, and compassion? This whole world is a single flower. Tonight we're gathering. There are people from many, many different parts of the world, many, many different parts of the United States. Just now, we're alive. Just now, we're one flower.